In a large city like Chicago, one might be able to seamlessly vanish into the throngs of people without anyone throwing them a second glance. However, one tragic July in 1996, not only did one father go missing, but so did the rest of his family. Today on Dark Matters, the disappearance of the Thompson family. On the 8100 block of South Rhodes Avenue in Chicago, the Thompson family lived in relative peace. The father, 40-year-old Everett Thompson, relocated to the Windy City from his birthplace, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The second eldest child with 5 siblings, Everett paved a path of success. He played both football and the trombone in high school, and he graduated college in 1978 with a degree in marketing. Everett found work in Chicago at a steel manufacturing firm, and he also found the love of his life, 43-year-old Lydia White. The couple married in 1982, had 2 sons, Everett Jr. and Andrew, and built a stable life for themselves. Everett eventually left the firm to follow his passion for cooking, opening the EAT and Company restaurant, EAT for his initials, Everett Arthur Thompson. The Eaton Company was successful, and Everett, known by neighbors as a doting father and a tireless worker, saw the fruits of his labor in his happy family. But neighbors noticed a new resident join the Thompson household in February of 1996, but no one seemed happy about it. Kenneth White, Lydia Thompson's brother, had just been released from prison after serving time for aggravated criminal sexual assault. Some might have questioned the Thompsons' decision to bring an ex-con into their home with 2 young sons, 11-year-old Everett Jr. and 8-year-old Andrew, even if he was family. The Thompsons had inherited the property from Lydia's father, who also left the home to her 2 other siblings, meaning, legally, Kenneth owned 1/3 of the property, though Everett's side of the family knew him as a, quote, freeloading house guest. The dynamic of the Thompson household changed drastically, and things turned from troublesome to violent. July 3rd, 1996. The first sign of trouble at the Thompson house unfolds. Lydia calls 911 because Kenneth is threatening her family with an axe. Officers rush to the scene, but by the time they arrive and look around, the argument has reduced to a simmer, but it doesn't take long for things to boil over again. 2 days later, on July 5th, 1996, Hernan Thompson, a minister out of Philadelphia and Everett's father, phones his son at the Eaton Company restaurant. Father and son make small talk for a while. Hernan asks when they're going to visit and if things have improved with Kenneth around. A panicked phone call from Lydia interrupts the friendly chat. Frantic, she tells Everett to come home. She's locked herself in the bedroom because Kenneth is chasing her with an axe. Everett hastily informs his father of the situation and hangs up, rushing out of the restaurant around 3 p.m. One of his employees is the last to ever see him. 2 hours later, Kenneth White drops by the restaurant in the Thompsons' van. He tells the manager Everett was arrested after a car accident, but the manager only has time to note the red smears on Kenneth's new white Nikes before he leaves. Later, when the manager speaks with police about the supposed accident, no record is ever found connecting Everett to any kind of traffic accident. Nobody hears from or sees the Thompsons for over a week. Despite knowing the circumstances in which he last spoke to his son, Hernan failed to inform anyone his son might be in danger, thinking the incident was just another one of Kenneth's outbursts. Finally, on July 17, 1996, 12 days after last speaking to him, Erlene and Hernan Thompson report their son missing. They haven't been able to get a hold of him, Lydia, or their 2 sons. Police arrive at their home for a wellness check, but they don't find Everett, Lydia, Everett Jr., or Andrew, and their family van is not in the driveway. However, someone is home. Kenneth White, the ex-convict brother of Lydia Thompson, is still inside the home. However, he informs police that the family is fine, that they loaded into the van for an impromptu vacation to Philadelphia, where Everett's parents lived. Police find nothing to indicate foul play and nothing to contradict Kenneth's story, and even though 12 days have passed since the family was last seen, they take Kenneth at his word and leave without investigating further. Over the next couple weeks, Kenneth relays similar stories to neighbors about the Thompsons' whereabouts. They went to Philly on a bus, to Minneapolis on a bus, took a trip to Hawaii. Kenneth took no care in keeping his story straight, and police failed to make a larger connection when the ex-con was arrested while driving the family van after falsifying Lydia's signature on a check shortly after she was last seen. In late July, Everett's parents take it upon themselves to look for their missing son, daughter-in-law, and grandchildren. They travel from Philadelphia to Chicago and conduct their own investigation, speaking to employees at the Eaton Company and seeking out the family van, hoping it would lead them to the Thompsons, but they find nothing. They take their findings to the police, and that's finally when authorities grow suspicious of Kenneth. Despite claiming to have a solid alibi, detectives learned Kenneth sold the van to a salvage yard not long after his arrest, and it had already been compacted. But that wasn't the worst of it. Kenneth also illegally forged both Lydia and his other sister's signature in order to sell the family's home. A home inspector came before the sale was made and noted that one toilet and one bathtub had recently been painted red, and the kitchen floor was torn out. We know the house wasn't previously in this condition, as on July 3rd, when officers responded to Lydia's call about Kenneth wielding an axe at her, they checked the house, and the kitchen floor was intact, and no, quote, red bathroom fixtures were in the home. By the time investigators uncovered all of this information, the house was already in the process of being gutted for renovations by the new owners, destroying any potential evidence needed to locate the Thompsons. In the police's investigation, or lack thereof, Kenneth came to be the main suspect. He lived with the Thompsons, was the only one who knew about the supposed spontaneous vacation, and he had a violent past, a criminal record of kidnapping and rape. Legally, he owned part of the property, though the sale of his inheritance was conducted illegally. After multiple questioning sessions, authorities didn't have enough to hold him, and he was released. After this, Kenneth moved out of the inner city to a trailer in Gary, Illinois, approximately 25 miles away. But police kept him on their radar, and on July 14, 1997, over a year after the last time any of the Thompsons were seen, the FBI searches in and around his trailer and make an alarming discovery: a boy's sock and men's gym shoes, both bloodstained. It is unknown who either item belonged to, though both tested positive for human blood. It wasn't enough to jail Kenneth White, but authorities didn't have to wait long. In November of that same year, Kenneth failed to register as a convicted sex offender and was jailed. He was released, but was arrested again by the FBI just a month later in December for forging Lydia's name on a $13,272 check when she hadn't been seen in over a year. In a surprise move, during his court hearing for a fraud charge, the prosecuting attorney, Jacqueline Ross, told the court that Kenneth was behind the, quote, axe murdering of his family, though the Thompsons were still considered missing and there were no bodies found. When asked by the defense why Ross was accusing his client of murder in a fraud case, Ross said, "The surrounding circumstances provide substantial evidence the defendant axe murdered his sister, her husband, and their 2 children. The offense is bank fraud, but it is the government's position that the murders were carried out in the furtherance of that crime." They claim the check fraud was a small sliver of a larger, more sinister picture. This is the theory put forth. The inheritance from Lydia and Kenneth's parents' passing came to fruition during Kenneth's time in prison. So by the time he was released, his sister was already residing in the home with her family. Kenneth wanted the home to himself, whether because of sentiment or money, and despised that he had to share it with his sister and in-laws. They believe he sold the inheritance after illegally obtaining full reign over it to cover up a crime or for the money, possibly both. Unfortunately, it seems that after shoddy, slow police work of the initial investigation, when answers were finally sought, it was too late. On Christmas Day, 1997, days after the Chicago Tribune detailed Kenneth's upcoming charges, He was found hanging from a bedsheet in his jail cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in the Loop. Police searched in vain for any clue left behind that might lead to the Thompson family's whereabouts, but there was no suicide note, nothing in his cell, or remaining belongings. In June of 1998, authorities searched Kenneth's former home and land for bodies, but no human remains have ever been found in connection with the disappearance of Everett, Lydia, Everett Jr., and Andrew Thompson. It is unknown if the case is still currently open and being investigated or not, but for lack of press and attention, I would say it's highly unlikely. Authorities believe that whatever happened to the Thompsons happened either on July 5th or 6th of 1996, and they heavily believe Kenneth was behind or involved in their disappearance, or at the very least knew something he never revealed. If the Thompsons did decide to just up and disappear to leave behind a successful business they owned and family they loved in a city they made their home, they've never been seen or heard from again. Unfortunately, I think it's more than likely they were murdered by Kenneth. Just from the sheer lack of attention and information available on this case and shoddy investigation skills, I'd say this may forever remain unsolved, though I hope that's not the case. If this family never receives any justice, I thought the least I could do was bring their story to your attention, as it remains unsolved, and police believe any closure will come from someone who knows something but hasn't talked yet. If the family did meet a tragic end, or if they vanished on their own at the threat of violence, we can only hope that in some sense, no matter what you believe, they've found peace or are together. The Thompson family has been missing since July 5th, 1996. 40-year-old Everett Thompson was 6 feet, 250 pounds, had black hair, brown eyes, and possibly sported a mustache. 43-year-old Lydia Thompson was 5'8", 135 pounds, and had brown hair, brown eyes, and a large vaccination scar on her upper arm, and possibly used her maiden name White. 11-year-old Everett Thompson Jr. and younger brother Andrew Thompson both had black hair and brown eyes. If you have any information on the Thompson family's disappearances, you can contact the Chicago Police Department at 312-433-7007 or 312-747-6222. Special thanks to the Patreon family. The names you see on screen are just some of the people who financially contribute to this channel. Whether they are passionate about cases like the Thompson families or the other dark content on this channel, their support cannot be overstated. If you are interested in supporting the channel, information is in the description, but even if you only continue to support by watching, thank you. Thank you for giving the Thompsons case a moment of your time, and my heart goes out to any friends or family members. I heavily believe this family deserves more justice than what they've been given so far. And no matter what you choose to believe or what you speculate, I ask you only for respect in the comments below, and remember, though these may be dark matters, the darkness always matters. Thank you for watching the video. Exposure to these cases is highly important, and to those of you who support this channel by watching, contributing, or buying merchandise, thank you. If you want to see other unsolved cases or dark content, be sure to subscribe to this channel. Stay safe, friends, and have a good night.